In this lesson, we'll add some thickness to the deck of our skateboard and also a little bit of shape to the ends. So here is basically one side of our deck. You can see it has no thickness, but it does have the shape that we'd like to have for the deck of our skateboard. I'm going to start by just selecting the curves that we have here and just deleting those. Okay, so we're left with a clean surface here with no curves. And so what we'd like to do now is create a copy of this to serve as the bottom of the skateboard. So I'll go to Surface, Subobject, select the surface, and for this I'm just going to go ahead and hold down Shift and just drag this down to the thickness of the skateboard, and we'll make an independent copy. Click OK on that, and so you can see the distance here is going to be our thickness. See between there. So for this bottom surface, I want to make sure that I point the normals in the opposite direction, so I'll go ahead and say flip normals on that. And now you can see as I come up here, you can see that the inside is black, and that's what we'd like, so that each of these surfaces are facing out, basically. I'm going to go ahead and hit J to turn off the selection bracket, and let's go ahead and also turn off the grids. And so what I want to do now is create the thickness of this. So before I do anything else, if I select this surface, you can see that it is independent, because we've made an independent copy. If you use something else like offset surface, function like that, you may need to go in and select Make Independent if that issue comes up. So for this, I'd like to create a ruled surface that is going to go between this one and this one. If I go ahead and select from the top level the ruled surface, you can see that I don't have the option to create a surface between these two surfaces. Okay, we need to actually create some curves here. So to create curves from the edges of this, we're going to use this Create Surface Edge Curve. So with our top level selected, we'll simply click on that to activate. And then as we hover over these different edges, you can see that it gives us a blue highlight of where that's going to actually create a new curve. So you can see that this one stops right here, because if you remember when we created the end of the skateboard, we had that cut right there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just click on these, and it turns green when it creates a new curve. So we'll just proceed around the shape to create curves on the top and the bottom. Alright, we'll go ahead and exit that tool. And now we can go to our ruled surface and go ahead and click on the top and then the bottom. You can see it creates a new surface there. Same thing here. Although the surface has been created, the normals are flipped, so it's black. So we can go ahead and flip those normals. Same thing here. We'll flip those normals around, and then we just have one more to do on the end. Go ahead and create that, and that one looks fine. Now we'd like to give a little more resolution to these, but right now if we did go ahead and look at our surface CVs, we can't access any of those, and that's because of that Make Independent. So right now these are dependent surfaces because they're created from those curves. If we go through and select these surfaces, we can choose to Make Independent, and then we'll select the next one. And that option will be grayed out if we don't have the ability to do that, if it's already been made independent, for instance. So we'll just go through and make all of those surfaces independent. Now when we select Surface CV, you can see, we can now see those lines. But as we'd like to come in and curve this out a little bit, we don't have enough resolution in here to be able to do that at this point. So one of the things that we can do is go in and actually rebuild this. So if we go to all the way to the bottom and the CV surface rollout, and let's choose Rebuild, and I'll just select 4 is fine, and let's go ahead and rebuild. I want to keep the number in U. So now if we go ahead and look at that, you can see that the lines in this direction remain the same, but we now have additional lines here along the center which we can use to kind of pull this surface out. Let's go ahead and repeat that surface, or that process rather, on the rest of these surfaces. Alright, and then we'll go here and do the same thing, keeping the U value, and let's choose 4 for the value in the V direction. And then one last surface, we'll go ahead and rebuild that. We already got that one. Go ahead and rebuild this end. Okay, so now if we look at this, you can see that they all match up all the way around. So for this, I want to select a number of CVs at one time. So I've got the CV subobject selected. You can see right here we can select a single CV, Okay, if we choose a row of CVs, in this case the row is going to go all the way around. If we choose a column, it's going to select this entire column. In our instance, we want to select entire rows. So go ahead with this row selection, control click, and let's click all the way around all of the surfaces. Now we'll just click the 2 middle rows, and all you have to do is click 1 point for each one. Okay, then we'll go to the end and do the same thing. Alright, so once those are all selected, let's now go into scale. And this is going to be a very sort of gentle operation. We want to scale it just very slightly out in the Y and the X. So I'll just scale it out in the Y direction, maybe just a hair more. Maybe something like that. And let's also scale it out in the X direction. Okay, and for this I'm going to go ahead and use some multiple views here. And I'm going to come in from the front, and I want to keep an eye on this right in here. And so now as I kind of scale this out, and actually this will be in our X, I want to keep an eye on that and make sure that it's not too drastic. Okay, so now if we take a look at this, you can see that that's probably a little bit too much. So let's go back to our CV selection, and let's kind of zoom in on this. We can get a little bit more control here, and let's pull this out just a little bit, and let's pull it out in the also in the other direction as well. So just kind of tweak it a little bit. You don't want anything too drastic. Alright, and so we'll just kind of pull this one out as well, and maybe a little bit too much. Okay, so something like that. Anyway, you get the idea of just kind of shaping that, pulling that out a little bit. So now what we can do is give a little bit of a bend to our skateboard. So we'll go ahead and select all of these CVs on the end. Okay, I want to make sure that you select single CV now. I'm going to select from this row on, and let's go into our front view. Okay, we've got our front view, and I just want to give it a little bit of a bend, and you can change your reference coordinate system if you want to. Let me go ahead and leave that here, and let's just rotate this, and we'll have to move it just a little bit. So I'm going to rotate it very slightly, and just move it so that it is pretty much level with this right here. Okay, and you can smooth this out by taking this line here and just kind of moving this in a little bit and get a little bit more of a soft transition there. And let's go ahead and do the same thing over on the other side as well. So we'll select these CVs, okay, making sure not to select any that we don't want. Going back into our front view, and let's go ahead and just rotate that slightly and pull it up. And I think we actually want the next row. And so we'll just rotate this. Okay, we'll pull that up, and then again, if you want to come in and just smooth that out a little bit, okay, you could just bring that up. So let's take a look at what this looks like now at this point. Okay, so at this point we've got the deck of our skateboard. We've got two sides. We've got some thickness with a little bit of a curved shape along there, a little bit softer shape, and we've got some bends added to the ends. So at this point what we want to do now is start to build the trucks on the bottom, so the mechanism with the wheels attached and so forth. So we'll go ahead and begin to do that in the next lesson.